Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I didn't do day 2 wrap up of the home entertainment show last night, but if you followed my YouTube shorts, you probably understand why. I went down to West Hollywood, which is a whole hour drive, but went with Julian from Margulis, went with Charles Kiermoose and Eric. We've done this before in terms of for the show. Long Beach is a little bit closer where it was last year, but we took the trek and it was well worth it. I mean, we had a fabulous meal at the Sunset Marquee. Went to the bar 1200, met almost everybody in the bar. One thing about wearing the outfits I wear, it's very easy for people to come up. It's almost like Halloween. People come up, want to meet you, talk to you, and some people even recognize me from a year ago. Apparently, I wore those same pants a year ago. I've been to Sunset Marquee several times since then, but they remembered me in those pants, and so it was good catching up with them again. Met a whole bunch of new people, but also went downstairs to the recording studio, and this time we got a behind-the-scenes tour. And Julian from Margulis has some in Mexico, some experience working in that realm. And so it was a really interesting to go in the recording studio, both from the recording engineer part and the performers part. So if you didn't watch those YouTube shorts, I just gave you a little bit of excerpts. And the bar 1200, it's pretty dark. But one thing about that bar, other than people meet everybody, most people don't have their phones out, unlike most bars nowadays in America. I had mine out for 30 seconds and that was about it. But came home super tired, couldn't do any wrap up. And today I'm going to do a little bit of wrap up, but I want to talk about things that aren't really show room specific, because when I get back, I'll do my best of show like I normally do. And what I like to do with those is put up pictures while I'm talking about it to refresh your memory and showcase some things. If I just talk nonstop about a bunch of rooms, it gets kind of boring, I think. So I want to give you some pictures to go along with what I'm talking about. But I will talk about 3 rooms in particular, good, and not so good, but they all kind of fall in together. And then I want to talk, though, about the show in general, because the scuttlebutt from this show, unfortunately, was, as I noticed from the very start, the hotel room having issues. Well, many other people came up to me and mentioned the hotel itself had issues. Nice hotel, mostly you would think perfectly fine, better venue, better location certainly than Long Beach. But, man, just the cleanliness of cleaning, like last night when I left at 6 o'clock to go to West Hollywood, there was a bunch of pizza boxes and everything in the 3rd floor foyer area. When I came back at 1 in the morning plus, it was still there. There's just some level of management that's missing here that I'm going to give feedback on it. And, that's what it's all about. Sometimes giving this feedback is important for improvement. It's not to really, bring down somebody, but you've got to get sometimes negative feedback. And in regards to the show, from a viewer standpoint, attendee, press standpoint, yes, there wasn't a whole lot of attention given to the press like some other shows reach out and do a lot of stuff for the press, but I don't expect a whole lot, so that wasn't a big deal. They didn't have the press pass. It was very hard to get even a press pass, but you can walk around without it for a while, so that's not a big deal. What I heard in terms of problematic was that a lot of the vendors had miscommunications, disorganization, getting some of their gear, and the presentations that people were given, like JR or Charles Kiermoose or Norman Varney, not having anybody know where it is, the times were changing, not having the projector set up. These are all little things that can frustrate people that invest a lot of money in doing a show and rely on getting a return, selling stuff and marketing. And so there was just a level of, things were happening at the top that not worthy of getting into details, but the people below and the ambassadors and all that, I got some feedback that some of these people really weren't as up to speed or picking up the slack like they should be. And again, I'm saying this more for constructive feedback to hopefully that this can improve, because it's been a show that I've been going to for decades, all the way back to sister show of CES. I want to see it succeed. I love coming here. I had a great time. I always make it a great time anyway coming to this area. So I want to see it succeed. But my fear is that some of the things that happened this show with disorganization and fear of not marketing it good enough may impact its success in the future. So hopefully they're going to take the feedback that they're inevitably going to give. I'm not the only one here. Maybe I'm one that's giving this publicly, but hopefully the organization, the marketing, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, being on top of stuff. That's been a topic, me just being a fly on the wall, hearing from vendors, okay? So I'm sharing this anecdotally, but with good intentions that hopefully this gets, because a lot of this didn't impact me. As a attendee, this was actually a dream show because it wasn't that crowded. You could spend extra time. I went back to rooms. Pretty much all I did today was go back to rooms. And the only one of the few new rooms, I think I'm a little crooked here, let me make sure. Anyway, I'm always crooked, so it doesn't matter, huh? Anyway, one of the new rooms that I did see today was the Griffin room. And that's very popular because in the standpoint of Griffin being a premier brand name, but also being a little bit mysterious and not doing any kind of music demos at a lot of shows recently and having static displays and people wanting to hear the Apex and all these different products, but them kind of taking the position of these are not good enough venues to hear. And all of these things are true. You're not going to get the potential of the gear, but everybody's in the same boat. So they get a lot of grief on that standpoint. And then the other side is doing scripted demos like they did today. People say, well, you're rigging things, you're curating it, you're making it too perfect, unfair comparison. And that's a fair criticism too. But then the positive side is that you go in there, you get to hear the gear at its utmost potential possible in this kind of environment, and they highlight tracks that they think will showcase the gear. And so that's what they did today. That's what they chose, and I respect that. And they put a lot of money into the treatments. I think the estimate was about $30,000 in the treatments of that room to showcase it. And I got the center seat, front row. And let me tell you, what was eerie about this presentation is that it reminded me so much of what I hear at home. Tonal balance was a little bit different because I EQ a little bit more Fletcher Munson curve, maybe 1/2 dB, 1 dB in some critical areas that if I was doing that room for my ears and my ear pin, it would be a little bit different. But I can see what they were going for, pretty flat, full range as possible. And that reminded me of my system, especially pre-Bach. The soundstage was mostly between the speakers, not a whole lot of layering, but when you have speakers and you're that close, you are getting, and they were towed in, you are getting your left ears hearing the right and vice versa, so you are getting some crosstalk that does collapse the soundstage. You saw it in other rooms where they spread them out a lot wider, face them, you get better levels of crosstalk cancellation. There were no crosstalk, but you also sacrifice some of the imaging. So the trade-off that they did for that room was, I think, the best that they could do, and it was well treated, and it reminded me a lot of my speakers because although I think the Griffins obviously have more attention to detail in the drivers, and the cabinet structure provides a little more dynamics in exchange for just a little of that openness of open baffle of mine, but basically has MTM and then a point source array of bass drivers. And so it was just so eerie that the sound, everything sounded very similar to what I hear at home, especially pre-Bach. And so it was very enjoyable, absent tonal balance things that I could easily change for my preference on that. And the gear was beautiful. We're talking about those $700,000 of a system, more than 3 of those high performance cars. So that's where you start getting into, you have to have money where that is not an object, and that is more like $700 or $7,000 to an average person. That's what it has to be to kind of rationalize the performance and the pride of ownership and all the things there. But they do put on a very high-end show. Some may say it's a little too pretentious to have tickets and all this stuff. But if you go into a Tiffany's, if you go buy a Rolex, you're going to go through that exact same experience, and that's something that a lot of people like. Makes them an easy target for people that can't afford it and just want to take pot shots. But there are people that on both spectrums that have some merits to do you go too far one way or the other? But just wanted to give my feedback on that room overall. Really nice and good to see him at least doing music clips. The other thing that was a standout today was two rooms I didn't like at all, and I didn't even upload the video. I was running out of hard drive space, and I was like, this isn't even worth uploading. I didn't enjoy it. I don't like showcasing stuff that is not good. I'll call it like I see it, like I'm going to tell you right now. But it's a good counter to one room that I heard yesterday. I didn't talk about it in my wrap-up because I didn't do one, but Songer Audio, a field coil speaker, made it with a driver. Very innovative what they're doing, and very coherent, and first time I've heard one of those kind of almost full range drivers that's able to mate well with woofer and perform really well. First time I can say that, you know, I could live with that kind of performance. But on the flip side, there were other two field coil, well, one field coil, this Man on the Moon speakers with the mattress. I did give them props for the best use of a mattress for a room treatment. They just propped it up in the room. But I couldn't listen to that. I went back today and they were playing, surprise, surprise, Tin Pan Alley, which I've heard gazillion times, and I don't know, it's just one of my least favorite I've ever heard it, to be honest with you. So I didn't stay in there very long. They're supposed to be doing demos of one versus the other, field coil, non-field coil, but it's just not even worth, for my taste, wasn't there. And then same thing with the Wolfgang von Lager speaker, just, I don't know, didn't resonate with me at all, so I just didn't even bother. The thing is with these systems, you can't ever make a categorical conclusion. There are some rooms that consistently I've avoided because I just know it's not my type. And Doug and Dave and I talked about this in the Tampa show about one room in particular. But I tell you what, for the most part, all the rooms had some merits of, even the clips. I'm not a clips guy at all in the corner, those kind of corner rooms. And especially this time they made it with rel subs. And we were playing Ozzy Osbourne yesterday, and that video got blocked. Also, a few other videos of mine got blocked because if you play Bob Dylan, Beatles, Eagles, it's going to get blocked. Ozzy Osbourne, now I learned. It was cool listening to the clips with Ozzy Osbourne. It's almost the perfect match of content to the speaker. But I went back today and it was more audiophile stuff and it sounded nice. Still not my type of speaker for sure, but it sounded cool. Pretty much all the speakers, you could find some merit of why people like horns, this, that, and the other. There's just a few that just didn't resonate at any level to me, so I wanted to get those out the way, get the criticisms out the way from the show. That's pretty much what my wrap-up is for today. On the positive side, though, this was a great show for me to give my disc, my USB stick, which is that, if you saw in the video, it actually looks like a vacuum tube USB stick. And in the room with Steve McCormick and Rick Brown and Mark Conti with his MC Audio-Tech speakers, no surprise, in the past, his MC Audio-Tech speakers, that panel thing that he did before, was not my favorite by a long shot. This one is much better. Still not my favorite, but let me tell you, a few of my subscribers have come up to me and said that that room was one of their favorites, and I think obviously that's a better version resonating with more people for his speaker, but the electronics in there were second to none. The David Burning amps that you've seen in $1 million acapella Spherons, the Steve McCormick custom preamp that he will build to spec. My friend Doug had that done. I think another one of my subscribers is going to be doing that soon, plus tons of people in the past have had that done. That's an overlooked option where you can get $50,000 or more performance for a fraction of the cost when you have to pay this dealer, distributor markup, and sometimes just for the name on the brand, on the chassis. So that was very entertaining to hear. Both Shenandoah, a track that is on my disc. I don't think you can find it that easy anymore. It's Teresa Perez's version of it, but it plays each instrument group in a classical arrangement. Allows you to focus on each instrument group playing a portion of that song, so you can get a gauge at different frequencies, different types of tonality, harmonics with these instruments, realism, and also sound staging, because It's a orchestra, more omni-mic, and so you can get a sense of sound staging. It's a great track. That's why I bring it on the stick, and that's the one I usually choose the most. I also got to play Greg Brown just for fun. I love hearing that song, Greg Brown, 64 Dodge. So that was a big highlight for today. A lot of the rooms that are always good, the Acoras and I Am by Oz, were all great. Estalon as well was impressive again. But this show overall, sound quality was good to above average. The bleed through on some of these rooms was quite high. If you can even hear it in some of my videos, I'm pretty sure. I almost thought I was going to get double copyright violations because I could hear Fever playing in the room next door plus whatever was playing in the room. It was pretty crazy. So these are not ones where you want to make categorical assumptions and determinations about a brand, but you do want to take advantage of these shows to get to know the people behind them. That's why if you watch my videos and I go in when first start playing music, maybe hang along even if you don't like the music till when I can talk to the people at the end. That might be the most valuable part of my video coverage, because when you get to know the people behind it, what goes into it, that's where a speaker like the Prana Fidelity, I went back today, got much more details. It looks like just a point source box speaker, but when you realize 850 layers of Baltic birch, minor curvatures, not just a coffin box, to help with resonances and diffraction and all these things, and the dip switches on the back to give you a taste of different capacitors, different roll-off points, giving you that advantage to take advantage of it and try it versus having to spend money modifying it yourself or just assume that the designer has the same taste that you have. This is the kind of stuff I look for. Even the port could be adjusted on that speaker. So if you don't want to go DSP, that speaker is almost the next best thing, all the controllability aspects. So wanted to give props to them. Songer Audio, like I said, doing innovative stuff that's good with field coils, where others I just think are sorely lacking. And props to MC Audio Tech, David Burning, Rick Brown, Steve McCormick, allowing me to play my files. Lots of fun meeting you guys. Again, that pretty much does the show for me. Otherwise, it kind of would have been same old, same old. Meeting you guys, getting to hear what you guys like, sharing thoughts, sharing stuff. A lot of people asking about the Bach. Sorry the Bach was not here. Come down to Houston. Also, on the West Coast, more and more customers are going to be having it. I can hook you up with people for home demos that are customers potentially. So if you are interested in that, let me know. I think I'll wrap it up for this point. I will have a best of show where I do the rooms, but also music clips. A lot of cool music came out of this, a lot of new reference tracks. So if you didn't notice it, I will have one of my subscribers religiously does a playlist for each day. I'll have that for you as well. Tons of stuff even from last week, that Rhapsody Audio Tour, In Acoustic Tour, Pete the Greek, Michael Amster's House with Linkwitz. That's all still coming, guys, and Pacific Audio Fest. I got to get started. So signing off for now, but I'll see you back here soon.